here, since we have such a full house, I'm going to go ahead and start things a little bit early. So I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting into session at 4:03 p.m. We're going to go ahead and get started with roll call. Senator Bassnett. Here. Senator Hashimoto.
Here.
Senator Chimezie. Senator Chimezie. Senator Carlson. Senator Carlson.
They were in committee. They're probably just switching.
I believe they're on Zoom or may not be able to.
They might not be in yet.
Robert, can they hear us on Zoom right now?
Careful, I was just checking down.
I see it. Oh, all right. Well, we'll just back up.
Can't hear that.
So Senator Chimezie, can you hear us then? I think so.
Oh, we might be having to amp things.
Oh, we probably can't hear that.
Yeah, we can't hear that.
Oh, no.
Okay. Got it. All right, so senators, if you're online until we figure out the audio issue, please send a message just saying you're here, and then we'll just move through that way. All right, so Senator Carlson, Senator Roberts.
Here.
Senator T. Schaefer. Here. Senator Hawk. Senator Hawk. Senator Hansen.
Here.
Senator Osmond. Senator Osmond.
She's online. They're online.
Oh, she's here.
There's a bunch of people.
Oh boy. Okay, so someone's found out. All right. Senator Darlington. Senator Saha.
They're online.
Okay. Senator Spears.
Here.
Senator Nguyen. Senator Nguyen. Senator Huzaifa.
Here.
Senator Wing.
Here.
Senator Pina.
Present.
Senator Novak.
Howdy.
Senator Flynn.
Yeet.
Senator Hopwood. Here. President Stiff. Here. Vice President Seversal here, and our speaker will be joining us shortly. Okay, excellent. So thank you guys for your flexibility as we kind of roll with it today. When our speaker gets here, we'll switch, but this is our plan for right now. So next, after roll call, we're going to go ahead and move on to presentations. We do have some presentations today, so we're excited for that. Just as a reminder to our presenters, we ask to stay around the 10-minute mark during presentations, and then unlimited time for questions. So our first presentation today is Students United. We'll go ahead and take the podium.
What is the plan for a presentation, or else we can just talk?
They can hear us.
Can you email me? I can pull it. Okay.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Sorry about this, guys.
Also, people are waiting.
State Chair Zelmer, can you double check that the microphone is on?
Hello.
Perfect.
I just
Yeah.
Okay, well, hello, friends. Can you guys hear me okay? I'm also just loud. Awesome. So, my name is Emma, and I am the State Chair of Students United. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a student here at Mankato.
Hello everyone, my name is Arnavi Malkare. I am also a student at Mankato. I'm the Vice Chair for Students United, she, her pronouns.
Hi everyone, my name is Pierre Young. I'm the Treasurer of Students United. I am not from Mankato. This is my first time in Mankato, but I am from Metro State University in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Yes, so I know we came last semester a couple times. Arnavi and I just kind of hang around because we love Mankato student government. But we're just going to give a quick refresher, and then we have a few things to talk about and some great opportunities coming up. So since we were here last semester, I'll give a quick refresher on who we are and what we do, and then you all can ask any questions if you have any. So Students United is the 501c3 nonprofit that represents all of the Minnesota State University students from the 7 campuses. So our board of directors is the 7 student body presidents. So President Stiff is the board of director from Mankato. And then the officers, which is us 3, are also students. And then we have a full-time team of staff who can wave. A lot of them are here with us today. And they do the behind-the-scenes work. So it's full-time, and they make sure that we are up to date on everything we need to know to help represent students at the local, system, state, and federal level. So while you all meet with admin here, President Stiff lets us know what she wants us to tell the system office about and change at the system level, as well as at the state legislature. We'll testify or plug in students to testify, and similar with the federal level. But yeah, so we're recognized by the Minnesota State System Office as well as by the state of Minnesota, which provides us that unique opportunity to be able to be the voice for students. So if you're a Minnesota State University student, we represent you as well. So the first thing we wanted to go over, and once we can, I have not gotten it yet. Oh, I forwarded it to you.
I forwarded it to Robert, so if we can get that.
Oh, and it says it's still sending. That's cool.
Here, Robert, can we get the presentation that I forwarded to you?
Sorry, guys. It's all good. So the first thing we wanted to go over was our budget. So every year it's good business practice, not only just in general, but also for the future, to be able to overview your budget and then make sure you can make changes going forward. And since we are a student-led organization and part of our funding comes from student fees, we want to make sure that student voices are included in this budget survey. Which, big shout out to Rayuda for helping create the survey, the slides, and everything else as one of the finance interns for Students United. So the short version of the survey will be handed out now. You can fill that out while we're chatting, and then we can pass it in at the end. And if you're super into budget surveys, there's a long version on the website, which we'd be more than happy if you all wanted to take, but it is a longer survey if you're not into that. So this is going to tell us what we want to focus our money on. Do you want us to focus our money on more legislative priorities? Do you want us to focus our money on advocacy? Do you want us to focus our money on hosting more events? This is your way to let us know. So something that's interesting about our budget, our first top funded program is student advocacy. So this is at the system, state, and federal level. So our board of directors goes to DC over spring break to lobby directly with our federal legislators, and then also we go to the state and system level as well. And this helps pay our students for their time, transportation, and make sure everything's covered for them. The second is our student leadership program. So this includes our student interns and student development to ensure that we're helping develop our student leaders of the future. So in 5 years from now, we're not left with no student leaders. And then finally is student organizing. So this includes our advocacy conference, which we'll talk about in a little bit, as well as officer travel. So for us to come here today, we also go up to the Bemidji campus, Moorhead. We go to each campus once a semester to make sure they know who we are. And there's 2 pots of money in our budget. The first is from student fees. Right now the student fee is about 61 cents per credit. So for me, taking 15 credits, that's about $10 a semester. And this ensures that we're able to keep all of our programs up and running and support everyone in our organization. And then the other pot of money is what we get from development, whether that be grants or whether that be sponsors. All of the student money we get goes directly into student advocacy, student organizing, and student programs. So none of that money goes towards different scholarships or those things. That's a different pot of money, so we make sure student money is focused directly on students. And then normally I'd have a QR code, but I will send this to President Stiff, so you all
Just open for me.
Oh, awesome.
So I can hear it.
So you all can scan this QR code and take the full-length budget survey if you would like. And then we did have open forums yesterday and today. So if you wanted to give some more feedback, you can tell President Stiff, or you can send us an email and ensure that it's heard. You can also tell your member, right, and he will let us know your feedback as well.
So hi everyone. So I'm hi everyone. So we talked about the program priorities that we discussed last semester. I wasn't here on campus last semester. but we explained like all the priorities that we want to tackle on what we want to head towards our goal to. Does anybody have any questions about the priorities?
Yeah, if y'all have any questions about any of these, we can wait till the end since we are on a time constraint.
I want to touch on the Lunar Advocacy updates that we accomplished. The Students United Sustainability and Equity and Inclusion Commitments, voter registration policy, student minimum wage increases, COVID-19 advocacy, international student health insurance, student debt forgiveness, tuition bonding, legislative funding, renters legislation, student basic needs funds, university access efforts, curriculum reviews.
Yeah, so if you want any more details on these, you can let us know. One on the sustainability and equity inclusion commitments, those will be coming to you in meet and confer soon. It's really important to get student advocacy behind these. These will hold the university administration accountable to what students want to see in these two areas. So make sure you support it and talk to faculty about supporting it as well. So the next is our legislative agendas and lobbying. Some of you might know Andrew Trenny, who is our legislative intern, and we'll let you know what our priorities are for state and federal, and then also why it's important that we contact our reps.
Yeah, so we're a little shorter than state tour summer. So we have a couple of legislative priorities. So again, these are set by your board of directors. So the first one is supporting the Minnesota State Capital Investment Program. So every year the state borrows money for capital projects, like roads, bridges, school buildings, stuff like that. And Minnesota State is asking for $292 million, so we're supporting that request, and that supports like learning environments. I think this campus has a couple bonding projects on that list as well. The second item is supporting the Minnesota State Supplemental budget request. So typically, if you're not funded fully during the budget cycle, which is the first year of a biennium, you can ask for additional money the second year. And so Minnesota State is asking for $60 million additional dollars for their budget to support things like campus compensation, tuition freeze is on there, and then money for basic needs and mental health resources is also on there. And then the last thing that's new this year is renter protection and transparency legislation, so making sure there's no hidden fees, privacy for tenants, and as students you guys have more rights and privileges and protections as students that are present. And that's it.
Yeah, and then, so some of you all will be meeting with, I believe, Luke Fredericks next week. It's on my calendar also. So we'll be excited to see that, and I know you all went through legislative training if you're on the advocacy team. If you're not, make sure you get on it for next year as well. And then federally, when we're in DC, we'll be talking about doubling the Pell Grant, extra funding for the TRIO program, which helps students to ensure that they're able to have someone through the process of college, and then also we'll be talking to them about OER funding, which is like the open educational resources, so helping provide funding for faculty to create free and accessible textbooks for us to use.
For the fun event, we are having our first in-person advocacy conference soon. I do not think most of you in this room have been in the advocacy conference, except Vice President Swenson. But it is on April 2nd, 2022. It is Intercontinental St. Paul Riverfront Hotel. And we have some cool sessions about renters' rights, how to form a union, and a lot more. There are free 10 spots for each campuses. You can use the code advocacy7 and use that to register. We would be sponsoring your meal and your hotel. And then if there are more open spots left, they'll be opening in March. Other than that, if there are more people who are interested, there is a $100 registration fee. But you can always find sources of funding around your campus and visit us for this wonderful event.
Yeah, and we've spoken to not only Emmy, but also President Stiff and Vice President Swenson about opening up funding through the Senate, through your guys' route. But all of the extra spots, Mankato spots are almost full right now, but there's some campuses that have lots of open spots left. All spots that are funded will be open on March 4th, so in a week from Friday, so make sure you sign up for those. AdCon was when I fell in love with Students United, and it's at a super nice hotel, and you're able to have your meals and transportation all funded for you. So make sure you come and join and see why Students United is here and what we keep on doing. So there's a few other ways to get involved. The first is the Minnesota State Work Group. So similar to how the university has committees where each of the bargaining units get to have a say on, Minnesota State does the same for their councils, and these meet online normally once a month. We have a few more spots open, and we pay a stipend to our students who serve on them for serving on it for the semester. So make sure to reach out to myself or Devin, who's in the chair over there, to talk about which ones are still open. We also have committees of our board, which are appointed by President Stiff. Ask her if there's any open spots, or if you're interested in just sitting in, we also welcome that. There's also surveys that you can fill out outside of just the budget survey. Officer applications are also now open, which is all three of us. If you're a student next year, you're able to apply and you are paid for your time, and there's a cap amount of hours. So it's a great opportunity for student leaders. And then also sign up for emails and texts and follow us on social media. Scholarships are open until April 1st. You do not have to be a citizen to apply for these. We do not require citizenship status. So if you're an international student, you can apply, as well as if you're a student here. We have tons of funding.
Alright, stay true. We're actually over our
Motion.
time limit,
Okay,
so
cool.
I'm gonna request you guys to round up.
Motion to extend the time limit for an additional 5 minutes.
Second.
And then do I have a dissent? Alright, you guys have 5 minutes.
Thanks. Sorry, guys. AdCon, scholarships. I lost my vibe here. Officer applications, if you're interested, talk to any three of us about what our experience has been like. And then we also have internships. So it's still a little it's still up in the air what these will look like next year, but they're going to be better than ever. So you can talk to Rayudo about his experience as an intern. But next year we're hoping to do a fellowship that turns into an internship. So make sure you stay posted on our emails and social media. These applications will probably open up around the end of this year, start of summer, and you're able to work with our great staff. There's opportunities in all different areas of a nonprofit, and they allow you to really work on what you want to work on while still advocating for students. You're also paid $15 an hour, and it's hybrid or all virtual. So if you didn't want to transport to the city to do that, you're able to do it all virtual. And since we're student-led, your student schedule comes first, so it's a great opportunity to be able to do that. We also wanted to shout out one of our sponsors in the system, the MAPL program, which is the Masters of Advocacy and Political Leadership at Metropolitan State University. If you're looking into grad schools, and if you come to our advocacy conference and listen to their panel, and you're really interested in continuing working in advocacy and political leadership, make sure to apply to this program. Andrew Trenny is also currently in the program if you wanted to hear more. And then follow us at Student 7 United on all social media platforms. Y'all are able to do TikTok really well. Maybe you can give us some advice on getting ours up and running. So let us know. That's all we have. Thank you.
Awesome. Do we have any questions? Senator Dustin?
So first of all, I wanted to say thank you to you guys. You had a great presentation. And I was really curious when you talked about the issue of like student health insurance, because this is a real concern that many international students have, especially we made a research and it shows that insurance is regulated by the 7 colleges or the universities. So students don't get to decide whether to choose their own private insurance. So what are you guys doing in terms of advocacy to ensure that students can have flexible insurance option to choose between their university-owned insurance or to have private, cheaper insurance?
Yeah, so this is something that's been an issue for years. I'm a 4th year this year, and this is something that we were talking about at my freshman advocacy conference. This year alone, we've been able to create a system-wide committee that will specifically look over the international student health care contract that goes up. We finally were able to create this committee, and it'll be mostly students on it, as well as some professionals who work. So students' voices will be directly in on this contract from now on, which is one way that we've been able to help do that. We're also working with the system office on how to be better at communicating with international students about the plan and why they don't go on the market or why they are going on the market, because we know that communication about the plan has been a major issue in past years about what they're doing, what it means, and what it means going forward. So the first thing we did that's going to be able to really help make a start on that is ensure that student voices are in on choosing the contract going forward and are actually at the table when it comes to it, not just us going to the chancellor saying, our students don't like this, our students want something different, and then that conversation ending there. We've been able to get that committee up and running, so it'll be ready to go by the end of this year. I'm sorry that's the only update that we have at this point, but we're super excited to be able to have student voice at the table.
If you do want some background information, I would be more than happy to assist you with some information, including our staff members. I've been working on International Insurance Committee for 3 years, so I can definitely give you more information on that.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandra Hashimoto?
Thank you everybody for coming today. I'm so happy to see everybody here. No, I just wanted to it's more of like a comment that as a working as an intern, I see the people here really care about education and the students, what's going on, and we have a lot of processes to make sure that we collect the students' voices at every level. So your participation on that survey, if you got 100,000, we would review all of these. Like spending the time on that's what I'm learning at my workplace. So any participation from you or people around you in your community, in their community, that'll be really helpful, and that'll be the whole power of the Students United, I would say. So please spread the information, like in whatever thing that you are involved with. We would really appreciate that. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Sandra Roberts?
Can you introduce us to your team?
I'm sure they would love to introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, I'm Devin Smith. I'm the Director of System Relations at Students United, and I'm a St. Cloud State alumni, so I've been around for a minute.
I'm Caitlin Johnson. This is my 3rd week at Students United as a full-time staff member. I do public relations.
I'm Connor Newby. I'm the operations coordinator for Students United and former board member from Bemidji and St. Cloud State alum as well.
You all mostly know, well, maybe not, Andrew Trenny. I'm a Mankato alum. I'm the legislative intern and a current master's student at Metro.
And your former student government president.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself.
I think I should introduce. Hi everybody, my name is Rita Hashimoto. I'm a student senator as well as a finance intern at Students United, and be working with everybody.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, I'm Memo Perez. I'm the Student Leadership Program Coordinator, so person that's in charge of the internship program.
And I'm Abir Saida, she, her pronouns. I'm the Director of Equity and Inclusion at Students United. And if anyone ever wants to talk a lot more about international health insurance, I will talk your ear off.
Yes, and if you all ever had any questions about any issues you're working on and you want to know what goes on at other campuses or anything else, you can always reach out to myself or any of our staff members.
Awesome. Do we have any further questions? Any questions? Any questions over Zoom? All right, well, thank you guys for joining us today.
Cool, thanks for having us.
All right, I just want to make one announcement before we move forward. For the people who are presenting today, if you have not forwarded me your slides and presentations, just do that with a text or maybe send that to Emmy because I think she's helping out so that we can try to move forward quickly. And then Emmy, you're next for presentation.
All right. What's up, y'all? I got like 1/2 laugh out of that. All right.
And it was from me. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Joey. Thanks. Okay, so where did my PowerPoint go? So Students United has this beautiful PowerPoint with all sorts of fancy stuff, and now you're about to get mine. As Emma alluded to, it's budget season. So a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, John and I gave you a presentation that was this massive info dump as far as everything to know about
the upcoming budget season. And now we've made it to day one of your budget presentations. So I'm back to give you the bite-sized version of what you need to know right now. And if I can effectively computer here, we're gonna play from start. Beautiful. All right. So here's what we're covering. Your important dates and the overview of the general process, what we're talking about today, which fees, and then I'll cover what they are briefly, but also how you interact with those fees as student government, and then tips for this part of the process. We're not going to talk about the recommendation meetings yet. We're just talking about right now. So when you're listening to presentations, as well as tips for afterwards, but before we actually get to those big, long budget meetings. Meeting, singular. Okay, so here's where we're at. Today is February 23rd. Yes, 23rd. Just second guess myself there. This is the first week of presentations. So today you're hearing from Student Health Services. You're also going to hear the Campus Recreation Outdoor Facility Fee and the Seasonal Sports and Recreation Facility Fee, aka the bubble. I apparently missed a closing quotation mark. March 2nd, you're going to be hearing the Student Activity Fee presentation. That's next week. After that, you get a break, it's spring break. And then on March 16th, you're going to hear your final week of presentations. So really, these next 3 weeks are going to be a lot of numbers that are coming at you. March 16th, you're going to hear the Intercollegiate Athletics fee, the Student Union fee, and the Technology fee. When we get to those fees, I will give you kind of the basic, like, the nuts and bolts, like I'm giving you today for those. 1 week later, that is going to be when we hit the recommending fees meeting, the referendum edition. Because both Intercollegiate Athletics and Student Activity fee, if they go over 2% for a Senate recommendation, those will go to a student vote for a student referendum. If they say under 2%, they will not trigger a student body vote. March 30th is when we will be recommending the other fees. This is a not referendum edition because none of these can trigger a referendum. Some of these fees have a Senate vote. Some of them are presented as more of a formality. We'll get to that in a minute. All right, so first one you're hearing today is Student Health Services. Basics. Health fund operations and student services provided by Student Health Services. I'm going to let them talk more about that. We'll let them talk about their proposal process as well. What you need to know, it's assessed on a per credit hour basis, banded like tuition, capped at $75. Increases are not subjected to a vote. So March 30th, you'll be reviewing the recommendation. Well, review it ahead of time, but on March 30th, you'll make your recommendation. Then that would go to Dr. Jones to approve, and then from there, it would go to President Inch to approve. So do some research, but you have some time to kind of take a closer look at this fee. The next one you're going to be hearing, and I guess you can pick one order for these two because they're both coming from Sam. Campus Recreation Outdoor Facility Fee. So this is the fee that, if you remember way back when, we explained it kind of like paying back a loan or a debt. So this started back in fiscal year 2009, so 2008-2009 academic year. It's going to continue going through the fiscal year 2028, so 2027 to 2028, so like 5 years from now, 5-6 years. At that time, then they'll come and reassess that fee. We review it here, but it's not changed or revised. It's more for transparency's sake. So Sam will present that today, but just know this isn't something you're necessarily going to be like making changes to or recommending. The other fee that's presented today is the Seasonal Sports and Recreation Facility Fee. That's a mouthful. Basics, you know the big old sports dome. That helped pay for that. It's assessed at a rate of 83 cents per credit hour. Again, think of this like a loan that's being paid off. This one is a 10-year payback period, so fiscal year 2029, that's when you're going to be seeing it. I don't know that they're doing anything with revisiting at that time, but it might happen, so we're just going to leave that open. Again, this is presented for a fee package, but we don't change, we don't revise. It's set in stone. Questions so far? Hearing some crickets, great. Okay, so right now we're focusing on presentations and what happens after the presentations, but before you vote. So today, as you're listening, if you have a question about something in the presentation that you want to clarify, please ask those questions. Keep in mind, if it's something really basic, maybe take some time to read through their documentation. I'll show you where to find that in a minute. But this isn't the time to be actually going in and challenging what they're recommending. Those are conversations that we want you to have, but we want you to be able to have them where you have the time to explore that and to really be able to review the information first. So for today, focus on just understanding their request. After the presentations, but before the vote, well, I'll show you where to find the Teams folder, where you can actually see all of your documents in the budget request. So as each area presents, those will be uploaded into Teams. If you don't have access, talk to me. I will make sure you have access. And afterwards, when you're done reading through, if you have questions, there are two things that you can do. You can either add them to the documents in Teams, that I'll show you in a second, so that we can share them with those departments prior to the meeting where we make the recommendations, or you can set up a meeting with a department representative to talk through their request. Times you might do one or the other. If you have kind of a more of a broad question or something that you think a lot of folks are wondering about, that is a great time to put it in the document, because that way you can see what other folks are asking, and when they'll discuss it at that actual recommendation meeting. If you have kind of a more nuanced conversation, for lack of a better term, or something where you really want to get into detail with a particular budget, that's a great time to set up a meeting, because that will give you the time to really be able to explore that. When we're in those recommendation meetings, we only have so many times that each person can talk, so you want to make sure that you're using those times wisely. So, I made this pretty screen grab video, and then I realized you can't really see where you find this on Teams, but you'll go to your student government Teams, click on Senate channel, click on Files, and there's a beautiful folder called 2022 Fee Process Documents. This is where you're going to find each fee area, and so that's where they put their documents in, and at the bottom there are the areas for the questions that can go into each, that will be sent to each area. Oh, it just auto went to my next slide. Love that. What questions do you have?
All right, do we have any questions for Emmy? Any questions? Senator Nowak?
Where'd you get those pants? They're really cool and I want them.
I think they're from Loft.
That is a good question. Senator Flynn?
If you happen to know off the top of your head, it's perfectly fine if you don't. What were the approximate number of credit hours?
295,600. Mark, yes, close, around that amount.
Okay, thank you.
I'm looking to him because he also knows them.
Close enough.
Yes.
7 off, Annie. I say that's pretty good.
Do we have any further questions? Any questions over Zoom?
Can I add a closing comment real quick?
Yes.
And as we get into this, you'll notice we have like 3-ish, 4-ish weeks of areas that are presenting. Try not to put the cart ahead of the horse, so to speak, or that is, if you haven't seen an area present, try not to predict what their numbers are going to be. This is a time, like, I know that there's a lot of conversation going around because it's all, like, our budget is going to be a fairly involved process this year, particularly around a couple of the fees. But if you're coming into it with a set of expectations, it doesn't set anyone up for success, especially because a lot of misinformation can be transmitted that way. So really just take each step of the process as it is and try not to get too far ahead of yourself. It's gonna be fine. Y'all are gonna do great. Just take a deep breath. We got this. Cool.
Thank you. President Stiff has a question.
Oh yeah, just a comment. I just want to reiterate what you said about this is not the time to challenge anything you hear, just to understand. So please, everyone, keep that in mind.
All right, thank you, Emmy. Moving on to open forum. Do I have anyone here for open forum today? Anyone for open forum? Anyone from open forum on Zoom? All right, guys, let's take the time to say goodbye to Students United. Bye.
Thank you very much for coming.
All right, we do not have anyone for open forum today. Moving on to the approval of consent agenda. Do I have any dissent on the approval of consent agenda? Any dissent? Any dissent? All right, the consent agenda is approved. Moving on to officer reports, starting with President Stiff.
Hello, everyone. I have kind of a longer report today. So the first thing is off-campus housing update. Senator Douglas, I remember you asked me last week if I can give you some more details, so I made sure I got that this week. So this comes directly from Ryan Strelov, who has been helping us with our off-campus housing website search, and so I'll just be reading this off. So far we've participated in a product demo presentation with 2 different companies offering tailor-made websites for off-campus housing, basically. Both sites would be completely free for the university and for students. And these sites include a variety of features, including roommate matching, mobile interfaces, a library of renters' education materials, and some varying levels of student feedback collection, aka reviews and ratings, that could be tailored to each individual university and especially the Mankato community and our special and specific needs. We have a meeting next week for a brief presentation from IT Solutions to see more about the current site we have and what we would need to integrate into the new site. We will then discuss the options we have seen so far and either move forward with the recommendation or address where more information and more companies are needed. We've also noticed some differences between the two companies that have presented so far. We'll discuss these differences in a meeting we have next week. One of those differences is the ability to have local administrators at MNSU, aka people that can be on campus also helping running this website. One platform we viewed has a slightly better mobile interface and more accessible ways to use it. We also have one site that has a better way of using your STAR ID, so making sure that the students that will be using this website are MNSU students and not just people from the community. While the finances of this site won't be the main consideration or main part of our decision making, it's worth noting that one of the services would share a significant amount more of the revenue they get from advertising back with the university than the other one. So 20% of their advertising will come back to the university versus the other site's 10%. And that is an update I have on the off-campus housing website for now. The next thing I have is the Barnes & Noble Scholarship nominations and awards for student government. So I mentioned last week we have 12 awards that are going to go out to student leaders all around campus, so I encourage you all to apply. With that, we need you all to nominate some people for some awards that student government gives out each year. One of those is the Dr. Dwayne, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Teacher of the Year Award. And so it sounds exactly how it is. Nominate someone for this award who has been great in their teachings and how they've helped you throughout your academic career with their material. Also, we have the Vic Swenson Student Friendly Award, and this award recognizes any university staff member who has demonstrated outstanding friendliness in assisting students in creating a community atmosphere. So your advisors, your mentors, anyone else that's been helping you out throughout your career at MNSU. Next, State Advocacy Day for Students United is Monday the 28th, and so me and the rest of the advocacy team that signed up will be meeting with some state legislators next Monday to talk about their state platform that they just described a few minutes ago. Next, as you all might or might not know, student government does have an immigration attorney as well as a attorney that handles, everyday issues, and so this immigration attorney has agreed to come to our campus, even though they are elsewhere. They've agreed to come on campus a couple times a year, and so they will be coming to campus this year, April 13th at 3 p.m. This is a Wednesday, and so while we do recognize this time is a little close to Senate, we probably will be waiving the committee meeting requirement at that day if any of you want to meet with a student immigration attorney or you know someone that does need to. Next, we have an invitation. Lately we've been discussing some accessibility issues around campus, and so we are working to address that as well, and I think administration has heard some of your concerns. And so we have gotten an invitation to nominate a member of student government to a group looking to review the university's emergency operations plan. And so, again, because we've been discussing this so much lately, I expect the person who signs up for this or who I nominate to be someone who's very involved. I expect you to attend the meetings, and I expect you to also report back to the Senate on what you've been deciding and what you've been hearing. So if any of you who are super interested in accessibility improvements around campus, I advise you to let me know, and then I will see about who I can nominate. And that is all I have for today.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for President Sandra Flynn?
What was the name of the person you mentioned at the beginning with the housing stuff?
Ryan Strelo.
Strelo?
Yes.
Senator Nowak?
Would you be able to send us the links to all of those different awards that you want people to be nominated?
Yeah, I can do some this in an email and send it out.
Right, thank you.
Do we have any further questions? Any questions? Any last questions? All right, moving on to Vice President Saverso.
Awesome. So I have a few things to talk about, like President Stiff did today. The first thing is that we met with Dr. Carol Glasser, who is the one whose research we reference all the time when we talk about food insecurity on our campus specifically. So that was a really great meeting to kind of get some context about research at the university and how we can use that in building our wellness center case. So that's just something cool to know. We are also really grateful for Dr. Glasser because they're on maternity. Yeah, apparently parental leave, and they still took the time to meet with us. So that was just kind of above and beyond their faculty responsibilities, and we really appreciate their time. The next thing is today, Students United team, President Stiff, and then I crashed the party for some free food, met with President Inch and Vice President Jones at the Dining Center today to kind of talk about some Students United commitments that they want the university to sign off on. So one of them is a DIE commitment, and one of them is a sustainability commitment. So I can't really speak to a lot of the details, but I know it's on the Students United webpage if anyone is curious about that. I can yield to State Chair Zelmer quick.
Sorry. I also have paper copies if people want to see them or want to talk about more. I'll be here all meeting. So.
Sweet. So yeah, we have that one pretty well today. Next up is we are meeting with the president again tomorrow. So some things that we plan to bring up to the president is we're going to bring them working models of other wellness centers across the country for kind of some best practice. We're also going to bring them, we were asked a while ago to give them a proposal on how we see the university's role in supporting student leaders, whether that's tuition support, whether that's leadership training support, just kind of what that looks like. And so we'll be bringing to them some proposals tomorrow to talk about that. I don't know, I might be missing something, but I'll update you guys next week on how that goes. Another thing is we stopped by the joint College Dems Turning Point meeting on Tuesday, where they were talking about access and creating some written documents to kind of support the student who's been impacted, but also just broader accessibility across campus. So that was great to see everybody getting together and working a lot better than our state house does. So we're happy to see that. Okay, and then the last thing that I have for you is we went to All Greek on Tuesday, right? Yesterday. Okay, my week has been thrown off because of President's Day. I don't know what day it is. But yes, we went to All Greek and we had the opportunity to speak to them about what members of fraternity and sororities can do to support students who are experiencing hunger or homelessness right now, and then also asking for their support as a student group in the Wellness Center, because we're looking to get support from different student groups to sign on. So if you are a part of a student group in this room, we would love to talk to you about coming to your organization and kind of getting your guys' endorsement or so of the Wellness Center. So that is the last thing I have.
Senator Novak?
Howdy. I just wanted to say on behalf of College Dems, I talked with Ethan afterwards, and we were very thankful to have had both of you guys come and attend while we were working on the first couple stages of our resolution there. And the plan is to finish that up Tuesday, 6 p.m., CSU 203, if anyone else is interested in participating.
Thank you. Do we have Senator Roberts?
Do you know if there's along the lines of that anything along the commitment of bringing Sodexo the student wages up to what was done by the University of 12?
Are you talking about a Students United commitment?
Is there anything being done there more specific? I suppose Students United too on that front of compensation there, but is there anything being done there?
So to clarify, are you saying that people who work under Sodexo are getting paid differently than normal? Other university employees?
Yeah, the university.
Oh, okay. I don't know anything about that or any commitments, but I would love to learn more about that because that sounds like something we should get involved in.
Yeah, from my understanding, I think Sodexo is like a
a private company just hired to the university, so they have a lot more authority over their wages. But as Vice President Swenson mentioned, that's something we can definitely look into and hopefully get back next week on some other answers.
If anybody wants to send us info on that, I wonder if there's some like in-between solutions that we could find, like maybe the university comping them to get up to 12, or something like that. So we would love to talk about that, but I don't know.
I've got a bunch of info I can send you about it.
Excellent, that'd be cool.
Any further questions? Any questions? All right, moving on to the last report of the day, which is my report. First of all, we are thinking of doing a True Colors activity. A little bit about that activity is it's a personality assessment and like a communication style assessment that is really helpful for understanding how you communicate in times of stress, budget season, so perfect for the time. It is also a great team builder. So we're planning on doing this activity after one of the Senate meetings, potentially on March 2nd. And then we're also planning on providing some food items for that. I will yield to Emmy for like more information on that. Do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, so just so folks are kind of familiar, the conversation's been going around about ways that we can, as a Senate, build some community, but also knowing that we're going to be moving into a season where there's a lot of discussion. And as we're moving later into the semester, we were looking at things that could also be helpful. So True Colors it's an inventory that looks at how you communicate, but also your thought processes and how you can work with folks who have similar or differing thought processes. So it's really interactive. It's very hands-on. I'll be leading it. As Don Hill said, there will be food. So the plan is to do this next Wednesday after Senate. So please be here in person. I know it's the last week before spring break, but I promise it will be worth your while. Anyone who's had me facilitate before, you can, I don't know, I'm gonna hype myself up now. But it's a really powerful experience, and I think it will really help this group be more effective as we go into budget and really just the rest of the year too. So.
Thank you. Vice President, so do you have a comment?
Yes, I do. So the staying after Senate on March 2nd is optional. So make sure that you guys really consider your options there and make adjustments. If there's some reason like work or something that you can't come, please reach out ahead of time. But just remember, it's optional.
So I'm actually gonna make that required because at the start of the semester, I already asked everyone to not have anything after 6 p.m. on Wednesdays. So that we have budget seasons, long meetings. So I'm gonna make that required, but I will count any extra time after Senate as office hours. As we all know, the Senate time does not count as office hours, but the moment I adjourn the meeting and we start with this, will count as your office hours, and there will be food. So it is required. Moving on to the next thing is we're not taking any more candidates for our senator positions, just because we're getting into a budget season, and it's going to be very overwhelming for a new candidate to come into Senate in this time because they'll be very confused on like how to vote and everything, and it can be very overwhelming. We all know that. So we're going to pause the candidacy application until March 31st, which is when we vote on the final budget, and then after that it'll be 2 weeks left. But I still want to make sure that we open that up so that if there's any candidates that you guys would like to recommend who wants to just come in, see the environment, see if that's a good fit for them, and then potentially want to run for next year. So we will open that back up for the last 2 weeks. They won't be able to do any like Senate projects in those 2 weeks, but it would be a good opportunity for them to like come see the environment, get to know Senate. And how certain government works. So, but for the time being, from today until March 31st, the candidate application will be paused. The next thing is, once again, we are in budget season. Emmy shared all the information you guys need. If any of you, because I've checked this over and over and over again, and I've talked to Emmy over and over and over again about everyone having access to Teams. So if at this point anyone is struggling for any kind of access with Teams, just reach out to me or reach out to Emmy because she is very good in resolving all of those issues. But make sure that you're going through all those documents because that's very important. My last thing is reports. We have 4 senator reports today. I had until Friday for all of you to sign up for your desired dates, and after that I couldn't take it off. One of the senators just decided to leave that document open and I can't delete it off OneDrive, but I'm not gonna be using that document. I took that off and I signed up all the other senators for their 2 reports or the reports they're left with, and then I emailed that document to everybody. I believe it was Monday is when I emailed that document out to everybody. So that would be the document that we're going to be using for our senator reports. The one on OneDrive is not going to be useful anymore. It's one of the senators, so if you can please log out of that document, I can delete it. That would be very helpful. And then my last thing, actually before I announce that, do we have any questions? Senator Flynn?
The Senate sign-up sheet you sent out is a numbers format. Is there any way you could send it as an Excel document? Because I don't have a Mac.
Sure, I can do that. Any Senator Dustin?
So students who have already applied like for positions right now, like you said, from today to the 31st, the application process is going to be closed.
We do not have any candidates for today, but if there's anyone who applied until today, we'll count that as after March 31st.
Okay.
So they can come and do their speech and everything after March 31st.
Okay.
Any other questions? Any last questions? Any questions over Zoom? All right, then the last thing on my report is Dean of the Day. We have Dean Beltsox with us today.
Gosh, this feels so formal because I'm here almost every week, but this time I'm here like in official capacity. So thank you very much for inviting me to your meeting. Happy to represent the Council of Deans here. I find it ironic that apparently y'all had a question for me last week, the one time I'm not here. So I hope that I answered the question for you. I have some data for President Stiff, but I'm happy to take questions on that. It was something about GA stipends.
President Stiff has a question.
Yeah, just to clarify, we had a question last week about GA stipends and just wanted to know if there was anything or a work group or committee assembled to look at that.
I think we have enough committees going right now. In all seriousness, no, we don't have a committee going. We're doing some background research at the moment. So one of the things that I wanted to tell you about is I am delighted to say that we have a new director of graduate studies. Some of you who are grad students may have worked with Chris Mickle. He was at the institution for 22 years in that role, and he retired in November. Dr. Gwen Shimmick-Tischler joined us 3 weeks ago today, and I'm delighted that she is joining our team. She comes from Cornell College in Iowa, where she was an associate vice president for student affairs. And I am hoping that she can help us in grad studies with a lot of student affairs type of work, student engagement, student experience type of stuff. And so one of the first things that I've asked Gwen to do is to gather information about the GA stipends. She is still working, but she's collected information from about 15 institutions. What we offer is either the same or slightly above what most of those institutions are offering. So for those of you who aren't grad students, a GA stipend is about $10,000 per year, $5,000 per semester, for 20 hours a week of work. That's about $15.63 an hour. I believe some of the concern is that that's not much more than the IT level 3 in the student payroll, which is about $15.10. I want to remind people that the GA stipend also pays for tuition, and that's a considerable savings of money that the students are not having to pay. So we understand that people would like the stipend to increase. We are looking into what comparable rates are. We're also concerned, though, in the same way with the student payroll increase, if we increase the GA stipend without a source of money, that reduces the total number of GAs that we can offer. Right now, 25% of all graduate students have a GA position. That's pretty high for comparable institutions. We are committed to supporting students and finding ways to help them afford college. So I don't have a definite answer for you, but we seem to be right in line with a lot of other institutions of our size and purpose. I also want to let you all know a couple of things that are happening within academic affairs. Dr. Timothy Berry, our Associate Vice President for Faculty Affairs and Equity Initiatives, is leading a work group. We're calling it the Art of Equity. Art is an action research team. And we are looking at the course level. We're looking at specific courses that have high rates of grades of D, F, or withdrawal, and courses that have high gaps in the racial disparity of student performance. We're doing specific outreach to the instructors of those courses. We're trying to help them come up with pedagogical practices, course designs, or other academic supports that can help improve those rates. So this is an ongoing thing. We're working with 10 courses at the moment, and we chose to focus on large enrollment, 100, 200 level courses, because these tend to be where we kind of call them gateway courses, where a lot of students get caught up. But that's not where we're stopping. We're going to continue this work out through the rest of the colleges and departments. This is separate. If you've been hearing about the equity scorecard out of diversity and inclusion, this is a separate thing. The Art of Equity is focused on courses. The equity scorecard is focused on the institution as a whole. So this could be part of that, but they're different things. You probably have heard that Goal 7 is under revision. Some language has been proposed by the system office. I don't know if that link has been shared out, but I'm happy to share it with you if you'd like to see what has been proposed. It changes Goal 7 completely. So we are currently working on a process of when this changes, because I'm pretty sure it's going to go through. When this changes, what do we do for students in the past 5 catalogs who says, these courses meet Goal 7, and students in the next catalog where it says these courses? It's not as easy as just pulling things out and putting new things in. But we're working hard now to make that as smooth a transition as we can once that goes through. There's also talk about changing the whole Minnesota transfer curriculum. I'm actually super excited about that. Not many people are, but I think it's a 20-year-old arrangement, and it could certainly use some spring cleaning. And then finally, it is CDS season. Much like my dad, the accountant, had tax season, I have CDS season. There's 850 curriculum proposals in this year's curriculum review cycle. That's your faculty working on continuous improvement, trying to be responsive to markets, trying to be responsive to students. There's also quite a bit of fixing, gaps and glitches and things like that. But please know that we are always working to try to make sure that you have the best learning experience that you can. I'm happy to answer any other questions if you've got any.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Senator Wing?
Thank you for coming today. As a transfer student myself, I have big concerns when it comes to the transfer student curriculum here at the university. It actually is one of the reasons why we'll be taking a 5th year here at Minnesota State Mankato. Is there any way that we can have student voices heard in terms of these changes?
I see Emma, who's probably knows more than I do.
Unless you all want a big answer. So there is committees that come up when things happen like that. So for Goal Area 7, there was a committee that took place, and there were students that served on it. That committee is now closed, and this is the language that they've moved forward with. We'll be submitting a comment in support of Goal Area 7. There's other transfer work that not only Students United but the system have been working on for a while, because our transfer system within the system itself is a mess.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions? Any questions? All right, thank you for joining us today. Moving on to the vacancies, I'm just going to announce the vacancies real quick.
Point of order, Senate reports.
Oh my God, yes. Senate reports, I was gonna skip over this. Before we start on Senate reports, I have an announcement. Since we have a long meeting, we have budget presentations coming up after this. I'm going to have, I have 4 senator reports, and I'm going to allow 2 minutes and 30 seconds for each senator for their reports, and then I will open the floor for questions. If there is questions that will involve longer discussions, I suggest that you reach out to the senator using GroupMe or their email address and do that discussions outside of the Senate meeting so that we're not here for a longer time. I'm going to get started with Senator Spears. And may I also suggest, if anyone on Zoom is not muted, please mute yourself.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Kev Spear. I've been kind of all over with committee projects. I've also been helping Senator Darlington with the Food Waste Project. But a personal project I've been working on is trying to build a sense of community on this campus. And I think a good way to do that is through an art walk. So those of you who don't know, the Mankato city government, they do an art walk downtown. It's basically public art. It's fun for people, and it's also a good way for exposure for artists. So I feel like that would be a great thing to have to our campus. So last week I talked to Gina Wagner from the art department about this. And a few things we talked about is, for one, the art has to be made by students, because the whole point of it would be to give them exposure. So basically every year we'd have a different theme. Every year we would replace the art, and we'd also have a vote among the whole student body about which pieces of art we should keep permanently. That's what we kind of talked about. After that, I emailed Mankato Public Works and also the Twin Rivers Council for the Arts to get a budget estimate and also some consultation on how to do this. Unfortunately, they have not got back to me yet. So for now, that's all I have. I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Senator Novak?
With the Art Walk project, have you reached out to or discovered who does the art display downstairs in the CSU on the bottom floor by the Hearthfire Lounge?
I have not yet. I know me and Gina talked about that. I think that's contracted, not even by students too. So, but, yeah, I'll definitely reach out.
Mark, do you have anything to add to that?
It goes through the art department. Yeah, we work with the art department on the gallery that are monthly downstairs there. That's who we work with.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any questions? All right, thank you, Senator Spears. Senator Uzefa?
Hello everyone. I haven't been around much this semester in person, but one of the things that I've been working on is the health insurance thing, which I found out that a lot of senators are interested in, and even Students United have been working on that issue from like many years. So the first thing that I did was a meeting with the KIC director, just to get when I found out that Students United was also working on this thing for a long time, and I did a lot of research on that, and it's like a system level thing. but I wanted to get an opinion from the KIC director on what we can do as a Senate to help in that cause, or like what it's about. So one of the things that she said that it was like the system doesn't want to change the student health insurance. Like, so I gave her an example of some universities that allow students to search a database and get their own health insurance from another insurance provider and do it that way. But the main concern that she shared was that what if the student cancels their health insurance after they get it from a third-party person and we, as a university, does not know about that? That'll be a problem. So she said that we'll probably have to make a full-time position for that, which will take a lot of time and effort and also finances for the university. As of the Students United, I think Emma already told about that. And it's like, so the system office committed to launching a request for proposals to start looking for another health insurance provider that will be cheaper than the current one, which is United Health Services, if I'm correct. And it will start in 2023 to 2024 year. So it's something that's, they want to get students' perspective on this, and they're kind of getting the survey from students about this so that they can propose better options for students by themselves so that students don't have to buy a third-party insurance. So it's like a middle point where it won't be as much expensive as right now, which is like around $2,000. And it won't be the case where the university has to start a full-time position just to assess the insurance of all the international students, which will be a hassle. And that's about it for my report. I'll stand for questions.
Thank you. Senator Darlington?
So it's more like a comment because I also have like a meeting arranged with her. I just needed to meet with the rest of the people I'm working with. But the issue of saying that if they have international, if they have like students have their own insurance, it's going to cost them more to assess those insurance. I don't know how that is going to work out, like in terms of it being true, because at my previous college, what they do is that it requires students to submit their insurance before the beginning of the semester. So obviously you see the term like when it starts and when it ends. So before even the students start to use the insurance, they already have an idea if it's going to take them for the semester or not. So maybe having like a separate committee should be the concern. But yeah, so I'll be willing to work with you like we talked through email. So we have to really understand the problem more to be able to work in conjunction with the Student United so that we can see if they can provide a better option.
Yeah, so for that, I did some research about some other universities that are providing the same thing, that you submit your proof of insurance on an online portal. But for that, the university has to assess it, like they have to create a full-time position that assesses the insurance, that someone is not providing a fake document to show that they have insurance and that stuff, because it's like we have about more than 1,000 international students. So assessing 1,000 students every semester would definitely require a full-time position for that. So that was her concern. I did talk about that. But,
Senator Zappa and Senator Dustin, I would like to suggest you guys meet and discuss on this more. Other than that, do we have any further questions for Senator Zappa? All right, thank you. Moving on to our next senator report, which is Senator Bassett.
Hello everybody, I am Devin Smith, all the way from Nepal, and I'm also serving as a senator of allied health and nursing. And I'm a freshman. Today I'd like to share a bit information about what I'm into these days. Okay, first of all, my major project for this semester, we'll be focusing on the library services, my personal experiences, and then my some other friends or the students' experiences. With regard that, I wanted to work on that. And then second will be with the thought of Senator Darlington, and then I think Senator Josefa just mentioned about the health insurance removing or reduction campaign, and then I'm also joining on that. And then after that, I also want to join on a campaign where the Dean of the Nursing was more focused on, where the local students of our university has been not coming from the spring of 2021. So, sorry, 2022. I'm sorry, spring of 2020. After the COVID, so the decreasing level of the local students was a major concern about the dean. And then the last one will be, I really want to work on the senator compensation. I do know that I have no information, like right now I have no proper information on that, but then I clearly want to work on that, and then I would love to have suggestions and then feedback on that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Do we have any questions for Senator Bassett? Any questions? Any questions? All right, Senator Bassett, thank you. Moving on to our last senator report for Senator Roberts.
Howdy all. As you all know, I'm Douglas. I'm the Graduate Studies Senator. And Dean Veltzus could have started off in a nice way when they talked about graduate student stipends, because that's what I'm going to be talking about today. My constituents are extremely concerned with how much they're receiving in compensation of $10,000 a year, which is under the federal poverty line. A lot of my fellow graduate assistants and graduate students are extremely concerned that that pay is nowhere close to enough, that they're forced to work even a second, potentially a third job to make ends meet. Another thing that they are discussing right now is their want for health insurance, which a large majority of other universities around the United States has begun implementing or has implemented as equal size or even smaller than our university across our nation. Another thing that graduate assistants are talking about in terms of at least the graduate assistantships themselves is this constant overwork, working way over 20 hours even though their contract says 20 hours. And they find themselves in just situations where they cannot just say no. Because there's so many instances where they're asked, can you look over this? Can you make sure, from a supervising professor, when that's not, for one, in their contract, but for two, they're being asked to do it in a situation where they can't really say no. So a resolution that I presented today in student affairs and academic affairs, because we are in joint committee sessions right now, is I presented a resolution that represented what graduate students, particularly graduate assistants, have been wanting to see changes in. They want to see health insurance. They want to see a higher compensation closer to the national average, which, as reported by 1,139 graduate assistants across the nation of smaller, equal, and larger size to this university, report that their average amount is about $28,884 in the stipends. We are substantially below that, and graduate assistants want to see at least something more comparable to that, or at least comparable in terms of the student worker wages raises that happened this term, to at least see some sort of increase coming into play overall. So that's what my constituents are saying. That's what the national averages are saying. That's where the data is coming from across the nation. The other thing that I want to mention is that graduate assistants are to kind of put in a guarantee of some sort of action being taken is graduate assistants are looking into unionization as an alternative if they cannot find policy action within the university to make some of these pieces of action happen. So I wanted to mention those two big things.
Senator Roberts, we have reached your time limit, so I'm going to request you to wrap up.
Thank you. I can go ahead and end it right there and open it for questions. I do have some other projects, but we'll talk about them another time.
Sure, and then I would encourage you to, again, share it in GroupMe and share it with all the senators that way, and you guys can collaborate. I would like to ask if there's any questions for Senator Roberts. Any questions? Any questions? All right, thank you. Moving on to vacancies, we have College of Allied Health and Nursing, College of Arts and Humanities, College of Education, College of Social and Behavioral Sciences, Graduate Studies Senator, Off-Campus Senator, another Off-Campus Senator, and 2 Res Life Senators. Once again, we're going to be pausing the applications until 31st of March, but you can encourage your candidates to still apply. They will all just get resumed after 31st of March, after the budget season. Moving on to new business, we have free present. Do you have a question, sir?
I actually have a motion.
Yes.
Motion to, following fee presentations, add the vacancy election operating procedure that was previously requested to be added to the agenda under new business, provided that we have time for it.
Second.
Again. Who was that?
Riley Carlson.
Okay,
But
wait.
Robinson.
When was this presented?
This was requested to be added onto the agenda last week, I believe. And I would like to motion to have it added to the agenda.
I will once again second.
Yes.
I'll just add, usually, y'all, whenever we have, like, things if you have anything you want to add that, you would say that under approval of consent agenda, you'd be like, oh, I dissent, and then add whatever.
Right.
But I'll let you decide if you want to.
Was this sent in an email to me?
If it was, it would have been from Shayla, not myself.
I have not received it, so I'm going to not accept this for this meeting because we already have a long meeting going on. But email me about this and we can discuss it for next meeting. And I would like to start with the free presentation, starting with Wendy for Student Health Services fee.
Hello, my name is Wendy Hsu. I'm the Director of Student Health Services, and I actually have 2 members of our Student Health Advisory Committee who will be presenting, and of course I will stand for questions with them after their presentation. Thank you. Tracy and Megan.
Before you guys get started, I just wanted to say that we are going to do a time limit of 10 minutes for each presentation, and then we will open the floor for questions. We're not going to be discussing on these presentations, and there will be no vote on these presentations today. So they'll present, then I'll open the floor for questions, and then we'll move on to the next presentation. You guys can get started.
All right, thank you. Like Wendy said, my name is Megan, and this is Kwesi. We are actually both graduate students here at the university. We are both in our 2nd year, and we both study counseling and student personnel. It's really great to meet you guys. We are also part of the Student Health Advisory Committee, or as we like to fondly say, SHAC. It's easier to remember that way, I guess. So just a little overview about the clinic for everybody. We do offer medical clinic services, pharmacy services, and health education. As you can see on our slide, it's a little bit hard to see. In medical terms, we have medical exams and consultations, diagnostic lab, STI and STD testing, a sports medicine doctor down there, immunizations. As for the pharmacy, we have low-cost medications, over-the-counter medications. As for health education, alcohol and drug education, peer education, nutrition, and there's a lot more listed on there as well.
Next slide.
Thank you. As for the location of health services, it's located in Karkoski Commons, next to Crawford, McElroy, and the Presca residence, and also next to the University Dining Center.
Next slide.
Oh, thank you. All right. As for the individuals that work in health services, you just met Wendy here. She is the Director of Health Services. We also have Holly Ellison. She is our campus dietitian. Lori Marty, she is the health educator. Ann Johnson, and she is the pharmacist. So, thank you. Also, we have Jody Englund. She is a psychiatric nurse practitioner as well as the medical director. And we also have various nurse practitioners, 3 doctors, one of which specializes in sports medicine. Thank you. Oh, and I should also mention really quickly before the next slide, I also work down there. I'm an intern, and I work primarily with international students, and I do mental health counseling down there for students that don't necessarily want to go to the counseling services. They come down and talk to me. So there's lots of people down there working together. Like I said, I work primarily with international students. As you can see on our demographics here, 35% of them are international, while 65% are non-international students. For students, For students that live off campus, we have 14% that live off campus, and, on campus we have 14% and 86% that do not. We have a large range of students that do come down, ranging anywhere up to 26 years and above. Our percentage of students that are 26 and over are actually 12%, which is a pretty high number. Students that are 22 years of age are about 14%, down to students that are 20 years of age at 17%.
Next slide.
All right, here are just a couple of goals. We are continuing to expand our telepsychiatry initiative. Currently, we serve 12 institutions in the state of Minnesota working virtually. We also want to support our medical health initiatives on the MSU campus, adapting changes from the pandemic. That's one thing we do, testing, staffing healthcare hotlines, mail order pharmacies, and we offer in-person as well as virtual visits. All of these things that we do, we actually did not get any funding for COVID relief funds, thank you. We also, the plan for health services is to eventually demolish the space that it's in now and relocate it into a more centralized space for students. Another thing health services is doing is we are preparing to start a mental health peer-to-peer pilot program. This is being started up by myself, Jody, and Lori. We are actually reached out. The state of Minnesota is offering up to $200,000 in grant money, and we ourselves are writing a program proposal for hopefully $50,000 to start this program, because we are recognizing that mental health is so important, and we are trying to utilize all of our resources to get more funding to help other students. Grace, you can take it away.
And then we're going to go to the next slide. As all of you have, you've probably gotten our budget proposal for this year. So I'm going to skip on to the next slide to get a closer look for our budget proposal. So this year we're requesting for a 10-cent increase for our overall for the student health fee on our campus. We haven't had an increase since FY18, and so this would be the first time this would be the first time we're getting an increase over the past 5 years. So the increase would go from for 10 cents, so it's like $1.62, and then in terms of like semesterly, I'll go from the 60. Sorry, kind of far away. So going from the 64 cents to 65 cents, as Emmy had mentioned previously before, the student health fee is banded at 75. We're one of the few campuses across our system that actually hasn't reached our max with that, and so we're trying to be conscientious of how much we spend within the student health services, and so the 10 cents increase would help support us in our goal, and especially since this year we're having a decrease in student credits, about 8,000 credits, so that's actually $14,000 that we're actually losing from the student health services. So the 10 cent increase will help us offset that. So if I can have the next slide. And so this is kind of like more like an expanded view too as well, just for y'all to look at. And then we can get the next slide. Other slide after that. And so this is just the justifications for the increase, as I mentioned, the 8,000 credits that we're not going to be potentially not receiving this year, and also the fee not being increased for the past 5 years since FY 2018. And in addition to that, the cap that we have as well. And you're probably wondering, like, the student health services, it has $1 million reserve. The reserve money is for us to use in case the student health center wants to relocate to a new center. And so with that being said, the student fees is not actually going to be used to build a new center, so the student health center actually has to save its own money in reserves to pay for that. In addition to that, the student health center also pays for things like maintenance within the proxy center, so they don't necessarily, if they hire their own GM, any damages that they receive from the student health center, the student health center actually has to pay for and doesn't actually receive aid for that. And as Megan had mentioned, we didn't receive COVID relief funds. We did receive like an EKG and COVID testing, but we didn't actually receive funds that we lost from last year, which was a deficit of $135,000. And so this would help us in our goal. And as we mentioned, as per Steph has mentioned, we want to build a campus where we're able to have like a one-stop center, a Oasis center, and so this is one way of helping us do that by supporting our student health center. And if we can have the next slide. These are just some of the obligations in terms of where our money goes. So we do pay rent to residential life, about $125,000 goes to paying rent, and the rent, so that's a big chunk of our change that goes to that. We also have different systems that are required to have, so electronic health system for medical workers for our students, liability insurance for health professionals, and also supplies and materials as well. And then if we go to the next slide. And then this is just some patient feedback for the Student Health Center. So these are students that come to our center. We do take surveys so that students can provide us feedback on how we can improve our services throughout our center. And with that being said, that ends our presentation. Thank you all.
Right on time. I was just looking at it and I'm like, am I going to have to tell him? Am I going to have to tell him?
We practiced.
Good job. All right. I would like to open the floor for questions, starting with Vice President Subversal.
Awesome. So I have 2 questions, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
All right. So my first question is just more of like a programming question. I saw you had Holly, the dietitian, under your staff. Is she employed by Sodexo or by you guys? And so follow-up question, do you need a dining plan to access those services?
I'm gonna yield to Wendy because that's very specific. But go ahead.
Yeah, so we really enjoy having Holly within Student Health Services, but she is an employee of University Dining. Okay. And yes, so it's a nice referral. She's actually started working with our medical providers so they can refer back and forth to each other, similar to the model that Megan is using. And you do have to, even dining dollars, that you need to have in order to use Holly as a dietitian. But I think it can be like $50 dining dollars. I guess I shouldn't speak. I should find that out for sure.
Okay. Yeah. Just wanted to clarify that. Mm-hmm. And then my second question, I got a little confused when you were talking about the $14,000 number. So if we raise your budget by 10 cents per credit hour, you will still come out $14,000 under what your current budget is. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So what would it be? What percent decrease would it be if we like didn't raise by 10 cents? Do you know that? Like if it stayed the same, how much of a loss would you guys take?
I would need to get my calculator out. I don't, as we figured the different percentages. So yeah, this is just under a 2%. It's a 1.81% increase. And so if we stayed the same at $5.42 per credit, yeah, I would have to figure that. There you go. We've got a calculator.
Okay, cool. And so,
what does it come out to?
That number is $43,360.
Okay.
Short. So then, is there a reason you guys are asking for this increase and not to like stay revenue neutral, or?
Yeah, so there would be, and that's, we try to be good stewards and conscientious of our requests, and there have been years that we have requested, a 4 or 5% increase, and students have always been really supportive of Student Health Services, but we're kind of hoping that deficit that we saw last year was temporary, as are many departments, and we have, since I've been in this role, since 2010, we have always been in the black. So it's certainly my hope that we will continue to be, healthy with our budget, and I wouldn't want to over-ask either.
Sure. Thank you.
Senator Nowak?
You guys detailed plans to expand tele-psychiatry. Would you be so kind as to explain that to me as if I was a person who had no idea what that is?
Do you want to?
Okay. So you're just asking what telepsychiatry is?
Yes.
Okay, so it's pretty much the same as going to a psychiatrist in person, except for you're doing it over Zoom, over some type of like medium. Because we've expanded out to 12 other universities, and some of which do not have a psychiatrist on their site. So Jody, who is our psychiatrist down in the center, she actually works with all of the universities and does it all over Zoom with students.
Thank you very much.
And just to also add, the telehealth also allows students to have access to psychiatry help. And so if students were like either at their homes and that sort of thing and can't physically come to campus due to COVID or other reasons, they're able to make those appointments and see someone virtually as well. In addition to that, the telehealth that they use is very secure, and so it's also on a different network, so it's not necessarily on Zoom, but a secure network where students feel like they have their privacy and stuff like that, since we're being back into like HIPAA laws and stuff like that.
My turn. I will also mention that it's an externally funded program. And so when Megan mentioned that we are serving different institutions, that is funded by the Minnesota State System through Multi-Campus Collaboration Partnership Award. It's the 3rd year that we've received that. We've been able to expand it from 4 institutions to 8 institutions to 12 institutions. Like I tell Minnesota State, like talk with any of the partners on the value of that service. Not only do they not have a model where there's a psychiatrist on campus, many times there isn't one in the community. And they look at like a 2 to 4 to 6 month wait list in order to access those services.
Sandra Roberts?
This is because I just don't know the history. Why do you have to pay rent to the university?
Well, it's a residential life building, and they are, where's their funding coming?
Student fee driven?
We are student fee driven, but they are revenue
fund.
Revenue fund.
So they take their own bonds. I apologize.
No, thank you. I was looking for the word. Yeah. So we have different funding sources, and so the space that we occupy is owned by Residential Life that was built, as part of a project, and so then we pay rent for our services.
It's kind of similar to if you think about the CSU as well. Certain places rent out spaces, and so that's why we still have to pay. It's like kind of thinking about Israeli spaces, so that's why we still have to pay for the space.
Any further questions? Any questions? Senator Roberts?
And my other question was, what would the fee rate be if you were to keep it revenue neutral? Or do you know? It's okay if you don't.
Revenue neutral. Explain that to me.
So what would the fee have to be if you were to not take a decrease in how much you are receiving in terms of the budget?
So if that 44,000 that we calculated, if we were to maintain the level of funding?
Yeah, what would that fee look like then?
Yeah, again, I'd have to figure that. The other thing that's important to remember is we do generate about $1 million in revenue. And so, I guess that's what I'm thinking when you're saying revenue neutral. The student fee, we're a student fee, and then we bill to health insurance. Our pharmacy charges, we're able to have reduced cost services because of the combination funding model, but I would have to figure that to look at the increase in order to be at base funding where we were last year.
Senator Nowak?
My math could be incorrect on this, but I believe that it comes out to about 14 cents rather than 10 cents.
Thank you.
I can adjust. The spreadsheet and the presentation are both in your Teams folder. I can adjust and put a few different models if that would be helpful. If it were a 0% increase, if it were a 1.8% increase, or if we were going to come out at the same level of funding as we were last year.
Awesome, thank you. And just to add to that, you guys can also reach out to Wendy and any of her staff if you have further questions before we vote on this. Do I have any last questions today? All right, thank you. Moving on to my next presentation, I have Sam, and he will be talking about zone fee and outdoor facilities fee. So Sam, would you like to do them both together and have a 20-minute time limit, or would you like to separate them out?
I promise not to talk for even close to 20 minutes. So let's separate them out. We'll go one at a time.
Awesome.
And my PowerPoint order is the campus recreation facility fee as the first item. Let's go ahead and get that going. This facility fee, Emmy already kind of talked on really the meat of what I'm talking about today. Again, my name is Sam Steiger. I work in campus recreation. I'm one of the program coordinators there. I'm coming in today in place of Todd Finkston, who wasn't able to join us today. Todd, however, is connected to us digitally through Zoom, and so if there's any questions that I can't handle, Todd is here and ready. If the audio and all that will patch him through. This fee really is a field fee is the best way to think of it. I know it says facility fee, but back in 2008, I believe, we really had some campus rec facilities, the outdoor fields and things were in poor repair. And I myself was a student prior to then, and I do remember that the track had a tree growing in it, the outdoor track. The intramural flag football fields were really bumpy and hard to run on. There was a lot of issues that had to do with quality and safety. And there also was some storage and restroom issues. Back in the day, If you would play and participate in intramural sports, if you needed to use the restroom, you'd have to run all the way to Gage Towers, which is a building that some of you don't even know existed. It was a res hall that was kind of where a parking lot is over there. So let's do the slide here. Let's look at the south end of campus. And the south end of campus aerial shot is kind of mostly campus recreation facilities, outdoor facilities. There's a few varsity level sport fields in here as well. And really for the most part, this is area just south of Stadium Road, and it includes softball diamonds that are lit and unlit. It involves a lacrosse pitch. It involves a rugby field, a multi-purpose field that we use quite a bit for ultimate frisbee, an outdoor track, which has a great infield that we use quite a bit for soccer and some other events, and then the track facility, the track surface as well is included in this. And let's go ahead to the next slide. Basically, this is showing up on student fee bills as something that says campus rec facility fee. In 2007, a referendum went out to the student body asking for, I believe it was $11 million to update our fields, and that referendum failed. And the students really sent us back to the drawing board saying you need to decrease some of the items that were in it. And I was on a committee back then. I remember we had outdoor basketball courts. We had a convertible ice rink that would be able to be used. We also had a sports dome on that plan. And through some value engineering, we took a bunch of stuff off of the fee. And in 2008, we came back to the Senate, and the Senate passed that revised plan for a lesser amount. And so in 2008, we began collecting student fees. And when I use the word debt service, it's really like a loan from the bank. We have to pay the loan every year. And so this fee pays off the debt service. And I want to explain a little bit about the breakdown, but that debt service is going to go for a total of 20 years, and it will sunset in 2029. There's an asterisk, though. We have to talk about what happens after that. So the breakdown of the fee is $2.50 per credit. It's banded at 12 to 18 credits, or $30 a semester. We bring in about $820,000 a year in student fees right here, and then we also earn some interest on those fees. Go ahead to the next slide. Well, let's talk about what it provides. So really, it's debt service, the $7 million outdoor recreation facilities. We're paying about $503,000 a year on that. There's an assessment that comes from the Minnesota State Fund. We do pay for some maintenance staff and operations style stuff. Think of the fuel it takes to cut the grass fields. Think of the fertilizer, the utilities. What happens if one of the mowers goes down? We put all that towards it, about $135,000 a year. We do have a personnel on the maintenance team because this is extra work for the maintenance team, the grounds team here at MSU. There's an R&R fund, that's renew and replacement. So again, if the mower goes down, we have to be able to find a new way to fund a mower. So a lot of university areas use this R&R fund as a way to come up with money when you need it. And lastly, we need an operating reserve. So we have, it looks like we have that reserve to operate for 6 months in there. Next slide, please. That's it. I'll stand for questions for that one real quick if anyone has any.
Good timing. Do I have any questions for Sam? President Steph?
Yeah, can you just explain a little bit more about the interest part? I think you said you earn interest off of the fee, or yeah, something like that.
Really, for the most part, when you think of all this money that's coming in, I believe that it was a $7,000 a year in interest. So the money's coming in, and then we're paying off various entities, and it's sitting in a bank. So just like your personal bank account, if you have a positive net in your account, you're going to earn some interest on it. So that's what the interest aspect of it is. And it just helps with our operational costs and the reserves and the R&R and all that kind of stuff. Is that accurate? Close.
Senator Roberts?
So how much do you have in the reserves to generate $7,000 in interest?
Great question. A magical voice might appear from the sky in just a couple seconds. I don't have the reserves with me. Todd, I'm not sure if you're able to answer that. I know that we're saving the reserves largely.
Yeah, can you hear me there?
We can.
So I know that number is somewhere around 770,000 in that reserve over the course of it's been about 14 years already. And like Sam had said, we've replaced mowers in the past with that. The replacement is there to deal with replacing the track if that would ever fail. So we do need to have a replacement fund for that. But we've had discussion, even with our Campus Rec Fee Advisory Committee last fall, that we're looking at possibly wanting to put artificial turf in the middle of that track because our grass surface gets beat up so bad that oftentimes we can only use it during the fall and not during spring semester. And that would cost about $1 million. And my hope would be that we would never have to come back to the students to ask for replacement of that if it would become a turf surface, an artificial turf surface like the dome surface that we could just pay for out of the repair and replacement fund. So it's at about 775. I think the last time I heard that number about a month or so ago.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions? Sam, do you want to add something?
I have one thing that I remembered I put an asterisk that ongoing. So this is a 20-year fund, and the fund is going to eventually expire. But we still are maintaining the facility. We're still growing grass. We're still cutting the grass. We still have a staff position associated. And so it is in our best interest just to be aware of the fact that there is going to need to be a plan for the future. The plan is what, I think 8 years away, 7 years away. So we're already past the halfway point on this fee. It was a 20-year fee, and I believe we're in year 13, 14.
Thank you. Sandra Roberts?
And I want to clarify, was the intention of making this reserve intentional out of that fee amount?
Indeed, it was a planned reserve.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Any questions over Zoom? All right, thank you, Sam. You can get started with your second presentation.
Okay, let's just start that slideshow. This is going to be another quick one. The name of this one is Seasonal Sports Dome Fee. Let's go ahead and we'll show a quick picture of it. You all have seen the bubble or the sports dome that we have out there. Just before you get to the free lot, I guess it's on the south side of campus as well. Let's go to the next slide. Why the fee? There's been discussion ever since that first proposal for recreational facility needs on our campus, and this concept of a dome or a seasonal bubble has been around for quite a long time. And we had the opportunity a number of years back to really take that head on, and the student body voted on it, and the vote yielded that we created a seasonal spot. It's a turf facility. It has air pressure that maintains the dome. It's a football field and a half in size. It's one of the largest sport dome facilities in the state of Minnesota. Those of you that have been into it, it's quite a facility, and we utilize it for student programming, intramural sports. There's a lot of community activity. There's athletic practices. There's a lot of different use of the facility, and it definitely is a busy facility, to say the least. We also have it as an available for human performance classes, and we have some community rental groups, things like that go on. Really, the need was we need weather appropriate turf on our campus that stands up to our use, and it's provided that for the years that it's been out. Let's go to the next slide. It shows up on the tuition and student fee bill as a seasonal sports dome fee. It basically was in process for about 14 years, and that referendum I referenced earlier in 2007 that failed. But in December of 2018, it went to referendum. President Davenport was very passionate about the project, and we were able to really push forward with a match with student fee funding, some private donor money, as well as university chipped in as well. I think the reserves? Great. And really, it's just for the building of the dome. The operations of the dome are coming from our rental of the dome and the use of the dome. And so what we're looking at here is debt service for the construction of the dome, just like what we had talked about earlier. It's like paying the bank back. It's going to be a 10-year debt service. It will end after fiscal year 2029. The debt service is 83 cents a credit. It's banded at 12 to 18 credits. It comes to $10 a semester per student. Next slide. That's it. I guess the only thing I'd like to reference is some of you have noticed the dome is up, and it's up all the time. The cost of taking the dome down has been cost prohibitive, primarily due to pandemic-related issues. And so during the summer months or the warmer months, we have not taken the dome down. And we're working with the city of Mankato. We're also working with the state to see if there can be a better solution for use. Now, the dome isn't air-conditioned, so it's quite unpleasant during the summer inside of the dome. But during the winter months is when we're using it primarily. And right now it's deemed as a seasonal structure, so it can only be used for a certain number of months in the year. So we've heard a lot of questions about taking the dome up and down. Right now it makes more sense fiscally to leave the dome up than it would be to take it down and then put it back up. I stand for questions.
Senator Nowak?
I'm glad that you brought up the taking up and down of the dome, and I know that this is probably beating a dead horse at this point, but is it still the intention to take the dome down using the cheapest offered cost, which, as I understand it previously, was correctional services?
Senator Nowak, that's a great question. Domes in Minnesota largely were being erected and taken down by correctional facility inmates. And it's a skilled labor thing. In order to put the dome up, it takes a lot of hands. And the state of Minnesota actually would train and bring inmates around to various domes to put them up and take them down. So originally in the plan, that was part of the discussion. It's good to note we actually haven't taken the dome down in that style, packed it and stored it. And part of our issues with the cost is the inmates aren't doing it anymore after the pandemic. And our estimates were almost triple, I believe, to get the dome taken down and put back up. So we stay clear of that. That's why I said it's more cost efficient just to leave it up. And that's how we've been navigating it. We've had questions about the cheapest labor and about using inmate labor. Todd, I'm not sure if you want to answer anything about that. I know that you've had a lot of conversations though.
No, you're correct, Sam. Senator Nowak, the cheapest labor would be to use our own students, whether it be from student athletic teams, sport clubs, or just general students to do that. But we've been advised, because of the nature of and the difficulty of the work, that to hire it out to people who are skilled in doing so is the best way to go. But I think it's a moot point at this time, because the fact that the original numbers that we were given pre-COVID were it would cost $40,000 to $50,000 to take it down, and then another $40,000 to $50,000 to put it back up. When we got quoted in about April of 2020, right after the pandemic started, it was $125,000 to take it down and $125,000 to put it back up, which we deemed cost prohibitive, and that's where we're at. And that's the reason why we're trying to get approval for it to be a 12-month use facility. But again, that's hanging in the balance with the city of Mankato and the state of Minnesota.
Thank you. Senator Roberts?
My question, that initial question was answered. I suppose the following question is, what if we were able to raise that fee appropriately to cover the cost of taking it down and putting it up again throughout the year?
Yeah, I suppose that could be an option, but we'd have to run those numbers to see what it would cost, and that would be one of those that we'd either have to raise that money through operations, through self-generated revenue, or come to the students and ask for that additional fee dollars. I guess those are the options.
Thank you. Senator T. Schaefer?
Hi. So to have it for a 12-month dome, you said it would have to be air conditioned in the summer. Can we just not do that because we need approval, or do we have to build that in, or is it cost? Does it cost a lot?
Air conditioning really isn't the topic at hand. It's fire suppression. So when you build a structure, and you build it in the way that the dome is built to be put up and taken down. There isn't a fire suppression system in it, and so there's a code, state of Minnesota code that we're working with to occupy a building on a year-round basis. So literally we're talking to the state about different methods of fire suppression, water cannons, water sprinklers, alarms, all kinds of stuff. So there might be some infrastructure needed if we were to convert. But right now it's been stalled for a number of months, and I believe it's up at the state level. But our university physical plant has been assisting us, and we've been working through those details.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Nowak?
Howdy. Being that currently we have been operating with the dome up year-round all this time, and with in mind those regulations and rules and classifications, what are the long-term effects and what are the possible consequences that we can see, either material or legal, for keeping the dome up year-round without taking it down?
Joey, you sound like you really should sit on a committee in the campus rec area. That's a great question. So there's wear and tear when you take a tent and you put a tent up and you take a tent down. There's just normal wear and tear. What we talked about with skilled labor is really important, because if you take it down and you make a boo-boo, you can damage the fabric, the materials. I do think that there's probably going to be some UV degradation and some effects of our great Minnesota wintertime. But really the lifespan on it isn't going to be compromised by that much from what we've been told. The facility is meant to store the dome within it, but if you think, there's huge steel cables that are almost the size of a basketball in diameter. There's tons of tarp material. There's air handling units. There's electrical panels. So our storage out there would be packed full if we were to put it in there. Just being honest, we're not using the field during the warm months because we can't go in there. We can't use it. It's also pretty warm in there. So, that's a bummer. I think some of our community youth groups would be using the field space during the summertime, but the demand really hasn't been there yet because we haven't had the dome down.
Senator Roberts?
What would be the I have the question. Never mind.
That's okay. Senator DeShafer.
Sorry, just how many months can we not use the dome? Like, what are the months that we use it, and then when can we not anymore?
Todd, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's 6 months of use.
Okay.
I believe we start that use around the 1st of October, and then we carry on with the use at the end of this month. Todd, are we going to start taming down at the end of March?
No, it's end of October to end of April at this point. So we start using it around October 23rd or 2nd on Saturday of family weekend, and we'll stop using it about April 22nd or something like that. 6 months.
Thank you. I will take my last question from Senator Roberts.
I remembered it. What's the estimated lifespan if we left it up year round, and what's the estimated lifespan if we were doing what we're supposed to do with it?
Todd, do you have that?
Well, we think the estimated lifespan of the facility itself, the turf and the bubble, is going to be well over 20 years. We don't know the difference between leaving it up and taking it down, but the taking it down and putting it back up was going to be over 20 years. So we can only assume it's going to be similar.
Thank you. After this, if any of the senators have any further questions, I encourage you to reach out to Sam and Todd for those questions. And thank you, Sam, for presenting to us today.
Thank you.
Also, thanks to Annie for helping with the slides. All right, moving on to old business. I do not have any old business for today. Yes, Senator Nowak?
Oh, sorry, I'm doing for announcements. I was preemptively.
Moving on to announcements, I will start with Senator Nowak.
Yes, howdy everybody. I'm going to try to keep this fast because we're already at 6. But Sunday, this week, we are doing free skating for the first 50 people to show up at the All Seasons Arena. That's Sunday, 2:30 to 4 p.m. Free skating. Come along, bring your friends. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be amazing. I wanted to say that one first because that one's easier for me to talk about than this one, which is Paddle Past Poverty. I've talked about it like twice now. It's epic. It's amazing. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to bike like 3 heats. I'm going to see if I can beat my record from last year. But basically, it is a charity bike marathon where we as a team participate, taking turns biking in different rounds, which are called heats, where one person hops on a bike and it's an electric bike that stays in one position and records how far you would be going and tries to see how far they can get to potentially win some prizes as a team. Last year, we kicked ass and we won Spirit. We are the reigning champs. We need to hold that. So I'm going to be passing around this sheet that has some times when each of the heats are going to be. And I want this sheet to be absolutely filled up, with the exception that I do want to leave some spaces for myself. I'll fill whatever's not taken. And I want to see a ton of people on our team. This, so that people know, is going to be Saturday, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. This does not state the location on it, but the location is the MCI Center, which I can send the address to whoever signs up on this paper. All right, gonna send that around.
Point of information?
Yeah.
Is that the center that's like near here?
Well, it should be nearby. When I looked at it before, it was nearby. I'm gonna pull it up just to verify that.
Vice President Swenson?
Just to add on to what Senator Novak said, just to clarify, just because we're biking does not mean it's strenuous. So you can go as hard as you want to go. I spent 97% of my energy last year dancing, but like whatever you want to bring to it, you're welcome to.
Yeah, you can definitely come and encourage the people who are biking.
Yeah, you don't have to bike if you want to just like show up and dance so we can win Spirit again, or if you want to just like chill out, and they have really good corn dogs there, so.
Do you have anything else to add? Mark, do you have something to add?
Yeah. I was going to mention this last week, but I forgot to. For those of you who've been in the lower level of the CSU this week, you may have seen some construction walls going up. This is the new work. This is started for the Chick-fil-A project that will be happening over the next few months. I mentioned this earlier on to people, I think, a little bit, but we'll be relocating Chick-fil-A to the lower level starting this summer or whenever it gets done, and that will not be upstairs on the upper level. So if you see the walls down there, they'll be having some diagrams on top of that as well pretty soon. They just aren't done yet to say coming soon. Maybe have the cows out there or some different things like that. But just in case you have any questions about that, that's the first phase of some of the things that you'll see for this is some of the upgrades we're doing for our dining contract with the renewals, a piece of it. And I'll give you some updates as the semester goes on about some things that will be happening this summer.
Thank you, Mark. Senator Wayne?
So I've got a few things. I'm going to try and keep it quick. First thing, April 5th, Turning Point USA will be hosting a speaker here on our campus talking about the Second Amendment. I remember her first name's Paige. I can't remember her last name, but I will have more information on that location and what to expect in the coming weeks. Next thing I've got is there's going to be a debate hosted between college Democrats, college Republicans, and Turning Point USA being held on April 12th. We'll have more information to come on that. And also, finally, regrettably, Congressman Hagedorn, who I was actually personally associated with, passed away last week. You'll be able to, you'll definitely be hearing more about this in the future, but there is a special election coming up. There will be endorsements going out in mid to late April, and the person who is elected in the special election this August will hold that seat from August until December and will not necessarily be the individual running in the general this year.
Thank you. Do we have any further announcements? I have a quick announcement. When the agenda goes out, is the time for you to look at it and see if there was something you were hoping to be on the agenda. that's not on the agenda, so please reach out to me if anything like that happens, so that we can keep it consistent. There's no surprises during the meeting. Other than that, I'm going to move on to roll call.
Motion.
Say that.
Motion to waive the roll call.
Do I have a second? Do I have a dissent? All right, the roll call is waived. I would like to adjourn this meeting at 6:06 p.m.
Before you leave, if you're interested at all in the Penthouse Poverty, you better sign up for that, because if it's just us plus Alfredo, I'm going to be throwing hands next meeting. Yeah, she's walking the door. No